Jesus, when he gave his first parable in the Gospel of Mark, do you remember it? It's the parable of the soils. And he told that story of the farmer throwing seeds out to different soils. And then when his disciples asked him to explain it, he says, the seed is the word of God. And what's interesting about it is the given in that story is the word will go out. The word of God will be proclaimed. It will be heard. It will be interacted with. The only thing that will make a difference between it being fruitful in your life or not is the preparedness of the soil. And some of us, if we're honest, we have maybe spent every morning this year getting up, reading our Bible, but not saying what's going on in my heart. Not preparing the soil of God. What's happening in me? Am I discontent about this frustration in my life? Am I disappointed in you that I haven't achieved this yet? And we don't attend to that. We just sort of read the Bible, say, I did my devotional moment, and walk off. And we're like somebody that takes seed and just throws it out on your driveway and then wonders why crops aren't growing. And some of you, maybe the most Christian thing you'll do this week is not read another book yet, but it's to sit down and just assess the soil of your heart and say, God, I can keep loading into my mind all these wonderful thoughts, but if deep in my heart I feel a resentment for you because I haven't arrived at the place I wanted, I feel a deep fear because I'm not sure you're going to come through for me, I've got to plow that up. I've got to set that out before him and let him address the soil. That's what David does. That's what we're meant to do. And here with David, as you watch the bottom fall out of his life, we get a window into his intimate conversations with God. And we hear how David interacts with God in the lowest moment of his life. And as we watch him do it, it gives us a window into what authentic devotion to God looks like. And the first thing you see in Psalm 142, he says, with my voice I cry out to the Lord. With my voice I plead for mercy. I pour out my complaint. I tell my trouble to him. Do you see what's happening? As he begins, he says to God, I'm pouring out my complaint. I'm telling all my trouble to you. The first thing David does, and I think the first critical element to a devotional life, is we get honest with God. It's an honest heart that David pours out what's going on in him with unfettered access. And yet what's interesting about David is David doesn't stop there. And some of us don't like the idea of being really deeply honest with God because you know people that just cry about their problems and that's all they do, and you don't want to be that person. But that's not David. He gets honest, but that's the beginning, it's not the end. And you see, as soon as David gets honest, he adds the second piece that's essential. Then he gets perspective. He doesn't stop at the emotions, but he doesn't neglect them. David has an open heart, and then David has an attentive mind. He pours out his complaint, but before the poems are over, he begins to speak truth to himself. He ends Psalm 142 saying, bring me out of prison, and then he says, the righteous will surround me. You will deal bountifully with me. He begins to preach the words of God into the place where he needs to hear it, his soul in the midst of its distress. And that's what we're meant to do. I get honest, and I get perspective, and then I begin to load my mind with thoughts of God so that they might stir my affections for God, because what you think about is what you care about. What you'll care about, you chase.